All updates we need. Sounds like a bold title, doesn't it? But behind it lies more than just a wish list. This video is about the features the community has been waiting for years. Yet, for some reason, Mojang keeps ignoring them. We'll cover big things, like a full nature update, and small ones, like showing actual ping on servers, instead of those vague signal bars. There are already videos like this on my channel, and you know what? Some of the things I talked about back then were later added to the game. That's awesome, because it shows that we, the players, are actually being heard. Recent spawn egg textures, falling leaves, fallen leaves, mob variants, fallen trees in Java Edition, fireflies, even if just as a bush, flowers in the Cherry Grove biome, and even flowers on cacti. All of these were once just suggestions, and now they're real. Unfortunately, Minecraft is currently going through hard times. For quite a long time, the updates haven't brought meaningful changes. Starting with 1.19, Mojang took a wrong turn. If you look at past updates and compare them to today's, you can see how Mojang seems to no longer know how to develop Minecraft further. In the past, they made the aquatic update, an important update that completely changed the underwater world of Minecraft. New structures appeared, and water finally began to pass through certain blocks. In 1.14, we got the Village and Pillage update, which completely changed villages. Villagers got professions, and pillagers appeared, raiding the villages. In 1.15, there was the Buzzy Bees update, which, although it didn't add much content, focused on optimization, because after the aquatic and village and pillage updates, Minecraft began to lag, and in this update they worked on performance. Then came one of the best, if not the best update, Nether update in 1.16. Mojang completely reworked the Nether dimension, adding new biomes, new mobs, new generation, new mechanics, and many other things that I'd get tired listing here. With this update, Mojang set a very high quality standard. After that came Caves and Cliffs, an update so massive that the developers had to split it into two parts. It completely reworked the cave and mountain generation. Caves got biomes and their size increased. Mountains began to look like real-world landscapes. Since the Nether was updated in the previous version, the overworld was updated here. So in 1.19, everyone thought we'd get the end update, and everyone started waiting. Then came the moment of truth. Mojang releases the end update, where they completely reworked the end, added new biomes, new mobs, and new mechanics.
Did you believe me?
Instead of that, Mojang made the Wild update, which was absolutely strange and unnecessary.
Where's the end update?
I missed the part where that's my problem.
The update is called the Wild Update. You'd probably think, well, if it's called Wild, it must be about wildlife, new animals, birds, predators, right?
The Wild update sounds very, very intriguing.
The word wild mainly means like two things for us. So the first thing is like beautiful nature. And the second thing is like really scary challenges and adventures.
Hey guys, what's going on?
In the Wild update, they add the Warden, who lives underground in a new structure called the Ancient City, to bring, as they said, a horror element to the game. They also added mangrove swamps and frogs, and that's it. Where's the wild nature here? After this update, I started getting suspicious. Then came 1.20, Trails and Tales, and in this update, I realized Minecraft definitely took a wrong turn. They added archaeology, where you clean blocks with a brush and have a 90% chance of getting absolute garbage. Also, if you find ocean ruins, you can clean them too, and maybe you'll get a sniffer egg, which does absolutely nothing. So for an entire year, Mojang worked on this update, created a mob, animated it, and it ended up being completely useless. Yes, the sniffer digs out new plants from the ground, but as you guessed, those are completely useless too. And that's the problem with recent updates. They're unnecessary and uninteresting. The player gets nothing new. To be fair, the new biome and the camel were pretty good, but let me remind you, this update took a year to make and added 2 mobs, 1 biome, and armor trims. Then came 1.21, Tricky Trials update. This update was definitely better than the previous ones. It added a new underground structure. But again, does Minecraft need that right now? You have to understand, the entire overworld in Minecraft has, for 15 years, been imagined by one person, Notch. He created the zombies, skeletons, creepers, and spiders. The mobs we still have today. Same with sheep, pigs, cows, and chickens. None of them have changed since they were first added. The look of trees? Also Notch, and they haven't changed in 15 years. After Tricky Trials, we got a small update, 1.21.2. where they added bundles, which were announced back in 2021. Just think about it. It took them 4 years to add bundles, but still, it's a good addition. And yes, instead of big updates once a year, Mojang will now make small but frequent ones. Then came the Garden Awakens update, and honestly, I don't know why this update even exists. They added a new biome and a supposedly scary mob, but what's the point of this update? The biome doesn't really fit Minecraft. It looks like you downloaded some mod, and most importantly, there's nothing interesting for the player there. The only reason to visit it is the new white wood. I remind you, they spent half a year developing this update, and as usual, nothing that truly excites the fans. And after total disappointment in the developers, new snapshots started coming out, where they added things fans have been asking for a long time. Mojang finally started updating nature, mob variants, fireflies, falling leaves, and on Minecraft Live 2025, they showed us a new passive mob, Gasling. To get it, you need to find it in the Nether, bring it to the overworld, pour water on it, and wait a few days for it to grow. Then, feed it snowballs, and you'll be able to fly on it. When I first saw it, I couldn't believe my eyes.
Which is obviously what
It looked like some weird mod, but then I sat and thought, this is actually a useful mob. It can help with building big projects. It reminded me of a mod where you can place a dragon egg in water to hatch a water dragon, or in lava to get a fire dragon. And if something like that used to seem absurd in vanilla Minecraft, then with the addition of the new ghast, a dragon might just become reality. Just kidding, that will never happen. What else was there at Minecraft Live? Official shaders. This is actually a really cool addition. Newcomers won't have to search for shaders online. They'll be able to turn them on right in the game without any hassle. But there's one problem with this. Mojang, before they gave up on large updates, said they didn't have time to make them and that working on big updates was very exhausting due to tight deadlines. But literally at Minecraft Live, Jeb says that these shaders aren't ready for Java yet, and for now will only come to Bedrock.
This graphical upgrade is planned for Java, and we're exploring how to do it. But the first version will be available on compatible Bedrock devices in the coming months.
What? So now Mojang is making small drops, which also won't even be released for Java in time? To be honest, this was the worst Minecraft Live, but the best update in a while, because Minecraft Live showed absolutely nothing except the Gasling and shaders. Minecraft Live was literally centered around just those two things, because they published snapshots months before Minecraft Live. People already know what's going to be there. There's so little content that Minecraft Live could literally be summed up in a 5-minute update rundown, and the other 55 minutes are just meaningless chatter about nothing. Minecraft Live has turned from a major event everyone was looking forward to, into one where everyone is asking, is that it? Next in the video, I'd like to give the developers ideas for updates the Minecraft community has been asking for a long time. The first one I want to start with is the weather update. Have you ever thought about the fact that Minecraft only has 4 types of weather? Rain, snow, thunderstorm, and sun. Why isn't there, for example, overcast weather, where it's not raining, but there's no sun either, because clouds block the sunlight? Overcast weather creates a whole new atmosphere. Why not foggy weather too? It could appear after rain or near bodies of water. Again, it adds atmosphere to the game. In Minecraft, clouds serve no purpose, and they're so ugly that people just turn them off in the settings. Because of the clouds Notch created 15 years ago, it's impossible to add new types of weather. How can you have cloudy weather without clouds? Clouds need to be completely reworked, and that will be a difficult task because they'll not only need to be redesigned, but also optimized if the developers decide to make them out of cubes. Then for optimization, they'll have to increase the size of the cloud block and make it a solid color without pixels. Also, cloud blocks should move across the world, and clouds should block sunlight depending on their density. Small clouds let light through, while rainy ones let very little through. To make these clouds move, we'd need wind. Wind would vary from light to strong. With light wind, grass would sway a little. With medium wind, there would be noticeable wind particles that affect most in-world effects. With strong wind, the player would be pushed slightly, making it harder to move against the wind but faster to move with it. Wind would also blow leaves off trees, which would look very cool. Rain itself should also be reworked. It hasn't changed since it was added in 2010. Rain should look better and work in combination with wind. Rain should have different intensities, because right now it only has two states, either it's raining or it's not. Minecraft doesn't have light or heavy rain, it always falls at the same speed and density. This needs to change. Imagine how beautiful snow would look with a new falling physics system. It would massively improve immersion and the overall perception of the game. Also, snow and rain should fall below the clouds, while right now they fall at any height, no matter how far you fly. I don't think it would be difficult for the developers to set a specific height for rain to start falling from. Animation update. By animation update, I mean animations for both mobs and players. You might disagree, saying those animations are what make Minecraft Minecraft. But then, why do recently added mobs have good animations, while the most common mobs still have animations from 2010? Look at how well animated the frog or the sniffer is. You can feel their weight, how smoothly they move and sniff, and that's a mob almost no one even meets because it's so hard and pointless to obtain. But what about common mobs? Why are they ignored throughout the game's entire history? We need a full rework of all mob animations. Make them more alive and realistic. Give them real eyes instead of just textures. Make it feel like they actually breathe and exist in the world. The player's animations should also be updated. Take the jump, for example. The player doesn't even jump, they just levitate in the air. These animations were made by Notch back in the day because back then it wasn't possible to make them smoother. They were acceptable until about 2020, but in 2025, it looks lazy for a company like Mojang, which makes one of the most popular games in the world. We need first-person item animations, crawling animations where arms move one by one, ladder climbing animations. When holding a lantern, it should sway in the player's hand, throwing animations. Swimming animations where arms rise up. And literally every animation should be updated. It deeply affects the way players perceive the game. I think many people know Action and stuff, where nearly all animations were changed and they look really cool. Why doesn't Mojang just hire the Action and Stuff team to make animations for the actual game instead of a mod? I think if the developers really wanted to, they could create amazing animations that would change Minecraft for the better. Sound update. Sound is no less important than the visual part of the game. It sets the mood and atmosphere. 15 years have passed since the game's release, and the game still has no ambient sounds. For some reason, the devs ignored this part of the game, and only in a recent snapshot did they add ambient sound for the desert. Just listen to how much that affects the overall feeling of the game. Now imagine if the devs brought this to every biome in the overworld and the end. I'm not mentioning the Nether, because the Nether update already added ambient sound there, and it sounds amazing. I can understand why they haven't added it to the end yet. They'll probably do it during the actual end update, but why haven't they added it to the overworld since the Nether update? It makes no sense, especially considering that the overworld is where players spend the most time. The lack of nature sounds feels strange. The overall sound design also needs an overhaul. Sound should have physics. For example, there should be echoes in caves. And during rain, if the player goes inside a building or cave, the sound should be muffled. Rain should sound different depending on what block it's hitting. We also need proximity voice chat between players. This feature would add fun and convenience to communication, and of course, it should be toggleable in the settings.
Hello guys, subscribe to Kasser. Hello guys, and this is Kasser's better Minecraft modpack.
Thunder should work like this. The closer you are, the louder and more intense it is. The farther you are, the softer and more delayed the sound will be. Again, since the game's release, sounds in Minecraft have barely changed, and they are now very outdated. Mob sounds are still okay, but block walking sounds are really outdated. They should be refreshed. We also need small interaction sounds when players do things. Nature update. The first thing that comes to mind when I think of nature is trees. And in Minecraft, there's a bit of a problem with them. Their design was created over 10 years ago, and since then, most of what we see are just oak logs 3 to 5 blocks tall. Yes, there are also larger trees, but they are much rarer and look significantly better. Forests need more variety in tree shapes. They can be any form the developers can imagine. You might say that chopping large trees would be inconvenient. And I'd agree with you. That's why there should be a new mechanic where chopping a tree requires breaking the bottom log multiple times. The number of hits depends on how many logs the tree has. The traditional tree chopping method often leaves floating leaves, since you might miss a single log. With the new system, once the tree is felled, all the leaves fall down as well. These fallen leaves will disappear over time, but now they'll stay on the ground instead of floating mid-air. The fallen leaves will slow the player down slightly, making the mechanic more balanced and realistic, and they can be cleared with a single click, just like grass. As for the general appearance of forests, they look too clean and sterile, as if someone's tidying up after them, instead of them growing wild. This could be changed by adding ivy that occasionally appears on trees, moss that grows both on trees and on the ground, even on fallen logs and spreading to nearby stone. Sticks would naturally generate on the ground under trees and could be picked up. There should be different grass heights, dried grass, mushrooms growing on trees and logs, and various weeds to diversify vegetation and give forests more depth. The bottom log of trees could be partially covered in grass. In a recent snapshot, Mojang added falling leaves, which look beautiful, and dried fallen leaves, which already add more variety and beauty to forests. But why only dried ones? Wouldn't it make more sense to add regular ones too? That would bring even more diversity to the forest. They also added a bush with fireflies, but from what I understand, it only grows near bodies of water and is pretty rare, which disappointed me a bit. Water effects should also be added. For example, during rain, you should see droplets hitting the surface. When a player is in water, waves should appear around them. The same for boats. Waves should also appear along beaches. When opening a chest underwater, bubbles should float up and pop rather than just disappear. Water splashes like in the trailer should be added when a block or mob falls into water, with splash height depending on fall height. A new type of stick could be added and used in building. Plants should rustle slightly as a player gets near them. Footprints from players and mobs should remain for a short time. In a recent snapshot, a new type of flower was added, but unfortunately, it only comes in one color and type. We definitely need more flower variations. Reeds should grow near the edges of water. The return of the old rose would be welcome. I still don't understand why they replaced it with the poppy instead of just adding the poppy separately. On beaches, palm trees with coconuts could sometimes generate, and near them, the crab from the mob vote could appear. Yes, Mojang, I still remember you promised to add all the mobs from the mob votes. In swamps, we could have large lily pads for easier traversal, and smaller ones that players can't stand on. And please, finally add fireflies. Yes, the firefly bush looks cool, but it's still not the same. Fireflies wouldn't even even need to be mobs, just glowing effects that appear near players at night, creating a magical nighttime atmosphere. Rivers should generate at different elevations. This would allow for waterfalls. We already have something similar in lush caves, but those are underground. Why not do it on the surface? With a river update, we could get a new cascade biome where multiple water sources fall from various levels. Very beautiful and vanilla friendly. In China, there are mountains called Tianzi. They look amazing, and I think they'd fit perfectly in Minecraft. A volcano biome would also be a great addition, useful for its abundance of lava. There could be a large crater biome, as rare as the mushroom biome. A geyser biome could generate a new block that blasts strong gusts of air, pushing players up or to the side. These blocks could also be redstone activated and generate in new lava cave systems. In the Caves and Cliffs update, Mojang revamped caves. They now look much better and got 2 new biomes, lush caves and dripstone caves. Both are beautiful and detailed, but Mojang forgot 2 very important ones: frozen caves and sand caves. Frozen caves would have icicles and ice instead of stalactites, and sand caves would be filled with sand and cacti. There could also be toxic caves. This idea was inspired by Subnautica, where there are poisonous zones that damage the player. Something similar could work in Minecraft. When entering a toxic zone, players would receive poison, making cave exploration more dangerous. Caves could also randomly collapse. If the player steps on a cracked stone, they fall through. Now about structures. The world lacks small structures that would make exploration more interesting. These wouldn't be loot heavy, just visual points of interest. We already have sunken and broken ships, but for some reason, not intact ones. On whole ships, we could encounter illager pirates guarding the loot. We also have ruined villages with zombie villagers, but what about sunken ones with drowned mobs? That would look perfectly vanilla. Speaking of villages, I don't understand why there are none in the jungle biome. Sure, the devs would need to put in some effort, but jungles are one of the oldest biomes, and players already avoid them. Adding villages would help. Same goes for cherry blossom biomes. They're beautiful, and villages would fit in perfectly. And don't get me started on swamps and badlands. These biomes are totally overlooked. When it comes to mobs, Minecraft is seriously lacking birds. They may not have much use, but hey, pandas are in the game, and they're basically there for atmosphere. Birds could at least drop feathers, making early game feather collection easier. Birds are some of the most common animals in the real world. Not adding them to Minecraft is strange. We also need more mob variants. Mojang stopped at the most basic types, but why leave out the sheep? They could easily have different looks, and beyond sheep, there are tons of mobs that deserve variants. Deer could live mainly in cold biomes and help bring life to Minecraft's world. Their hides could be used to craft bundles, making it a bit harder to obtain. One of the most iconic forest animals is the bear, but Minecraft only has polar bears. Why? Grizzly bears should be added. They'd be neutral, fish for food, hunt animals, and gather honey and berries. Sharks could swim in oceans, adding more life and maybe even danger. Imagine a drowned riding a shark with a trident. That would be hilarious. Seals could live in ice biomes, giving polar bears something to hunt instead of just standing around. Seals would flee when attacked. Penguins could also inhabit cold biomes, sliding on their bellies. If tamed, they could fetch loot from the oceans. Owls would live in forests, sleeping during the day and hunting at night. Ducks would swim in rivers and lakes. Flamingos would appear in savanna water pools. The unicorn would be a very rare variant of the horse, about as rare as a pink sheep. A long time ago, during the Minecraft biome vote, Mojang showed us 6 biomes they wanted to update: savanna, desert, badlands, swamp, taiga, and mountains. The last 3 have already been updated, but the first 3 are still waiting. In the savanna update, they showed the baobab tree, termites, and a new mob, the ostrich, which hides its head in the sand. I'm still curious what they had planned for termites. I never really figured out how they'd fit in, unless just as a detail for nature. In the desert update, we were shown palm trees and a meerkat mob, which stands on its hind legs and could be tamed with fish. In the badlands update, they showed tumbleweed, a new cactus type, and finally, a new bird, the vulture. Mojang themselves showed us a bird, which means they can figure out how to add them. And yes, Mojang, even though this biome vote was 5 years ago, players are still waiting for these biome updates. And finally, seasons. I think they should be implemented as a separate toggle in the world creation settings. The player can choose whether they want to play with this feature or not. The game would then include different seasons that affect the world around you. In summer, everything would look normal, green grass and leaves. In autumn, everything would turn yellow, creating a cozy fall atmosphere. In winter, snow would gradually fall layer by layer. Rivers would freeze over, and you wouldn't be able to grow crops unless you built a greenhouse. In spring, the snow would melt and everything would bloom, smoothly transitioning back into summer. Each season would last about 10 in-game days, though I think there should be an option in the settings to adjust that number to whatever the player finds comfortable. This is where the first part ends, and I'm already making the second part, in which other topics will be touched upon, such as food balance, the winter and desert update, as well as various little things.
Taking a breath, losing my